Hi, welcome to Through the Detours podcast by Wendy Lois. If you have been here with us since the genesis of it, you are my tribe. And if you're here for the first time, Karibu Sana. This is a space where we give positive vibrations, we share positive energy, and make life a lot easier by the conversations that we have. We have triggering, true, real, raw conversations right here. Thank you so much. And having said that, our episode today is one of a heavy ones that I've had in my heart. And it's a truth that is rarely spoken about. And it is my truth that I will speak about from my worldview and from my point of view. Let's lose the entitlement we have on our friends' achieved milestones and successes. So through adulting, many of us have fragments of friends and people we've journeyed with, acquaintances from way back before Neno, before we were washed and gingered. And now we have transitioned through different phases in life, and most of us, our things, our projects, our careers are taking shape, and things are looking good. So it's in the human culture. I almost said in the African setup, but I think it's in the human culture that we want to have some entitlement over people's successes. And I will start with the most fundamental one, our money, our coins. So this is how I'm gonna play it out. Most of us feel like if we journeyed with our packs from when we didn't have nothing, from grass to grace, when now we are experiencing our seasons of grace, we feel like the other parties play a phenomenal or a fundamental role in holding our hands. Let me put a disclaimer. I don't disagree that out of one's abundance and generosity, they should pour out. It's just, again, it's human for you to stand and support your very own, whom you've journeyed with. But the truth is, you are not forced. It's not a rule and a regulation that you ought to support them, okay? This was clearly stated to me, not directly, but indirectly with my bestie who supports her own. She pays for businesses and supports by actually doing what you expect other people to do. And I think the most targeted ones, or the ones I can really use to bring this into context, is like if you're in the creative world, you know, you're in photography, videography, or like me, the one who holds the mic and talks a lot. There's this sense of entitlement that we want free things from our bodies, you know. Oh, hi Mike, I'm having my birthday or whatever celebration or occasion that needs videography or photography, and you are entitled to their services at no fee. The other group is maybe if it's a makeup artist, you know. I have journeyed with quite a couple of people who are close to me, and they do that, you know. It's wrong for you to be entitled to their services at no fee. The middle ground to it could be you could negotiate for a better rate, you know, especially if maybe you're not in the capacity to pay fully for the services, but you need to give back. You need to trade in the services for whatever payment it is that they ask for. So I was just listening to a couple of podcasts and I thought to myself, no, even with black tax at family level, you know, because one of your cousins are omoka or things are going well for themselves, doesn't mean they should now pay your trips or take care of your needs, okay? It's an entitlement that honestly, let's talk about and let's stop it. Because if this is especially their source of livelihood and you who is inside their gang is feeding off of them and not pouring back at them, so how do they butter their bread? Okay, leave alone even buttering. How do they get that bread for it to be buttered, you know? And it's really sad, because as I've grown up right into young adulting, you know, you kind of see people who come your way and they're like, oh, you know, when we were together since when we had nothing. True, we've journeyed through life, but it doesn't mean that now things are shaping up and working out, that the disrespect can come in the shape of, you know, being entitled to now being in my space and freely walking in and out of the life that is unfolding and being created right now, just because we slept hungry back in the day. I mean, I honestly dislike it. And I just said I'm gonna mention this here on this podcast because we want to give out the positivity of it. And a couple of episodes back, I talked about the attitude that you have when you're in your waiting season. And I'll just recap it and say it here again. If you are in your waiting season and there are people in your park who have had their turns and dreams and successes manifest, you know, you have no right to have an entitlement to that. And that just goes back to what we say, checking our attitudes when we are in different phases of our lives with the people around us. And I was listening to some audio as well. I listen to a lot of podcasts because it helps me shape what I'm doing here with my own. And we were talking about, I think it was with Just Ivy, where we were talking about black tax, you know, and where do we draw the line that now because you're doing good or you are in a much privileged position or capacity. So where do you draw the line between this is a primary responsibility and I think I should step up and do it, to now this is an exploitation? Are you triggered? Yes. Are you triggered? You who takes advantage of people. And it can really be draining. It really can be draining when people around you feel like when we all didn't have, we were tied together. Then now when you have, you are not showing up. And the thing is, you can be projecting that because you want them to show up for you in a language that only you want to understand. But dynamics really do change, okay? And for the people on the other end of that hand, it's only human that they will reasonably show up. But I think the exploitation for me and the wrongness in it is when there is a sense of entitlement that, oh, you know what, by the way, Kinuthia or Peter, I don't know why I like the name Kinuthia a lot. You know, I'm stuck somewhere, I need a quick 10K. And when Kinuthia says no, it's almost like, oh, really? After all we've been through together? Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, miss. That was a phase in life where you guys journeyed through it together. And because now Kinuthia has their own going on, doesn't mean that now they owe you anything. I don't think so. And I would just like to know, because in that particular episode with the black tax, it was really triggering, and whatever people were saying, especially in the African context, it was mind-blowing and not in a good way, to be very honest. And people are just sharing the experiences, how even as close home as siblings, you know, they feel like, oh, because now you're a very good photographer, one, we will never pay for photography services. at all. One time at home we had a funeral, and so I think we are two of us and a cousin of mine who are in the media industry. So of course when the meetings are going on, we have all that. So who is going to take your photography, who is going to do videography and all that. And of course now, because you're in the industry, the docket is given to you guys, because then you're well informed and you're versed in that field. And she called me aside and said, Wendy, our uncles are being unreasonable, so where should I go get these services at almost no cost? Not remembering that there is a cost for hiring equipment, there's labor, there's this person who will travel and come home. And for me, and I think that's a very clear point and personal one for me, where there was that entitlement that, oh, you actually went to school and studied for this thing. So it's almost like, oh, wow, so, okay, rudisha mkono, and we should really talk it out and not further that kind of notion and ideology, because it's not right, to say the least. It's not right. You have no right to even have the thought of being entitled, to your friends, acquaintances, relatives, or people around you, to their space, to their money, to their success stories, to their anything. And if that is you I'm talking to, you've got to change. You can grow through that. Maybe it didn't make sense to you, maybe. But because you've met through the detours, we are telling you, no. Support as much as you can, even when you're on the other side. If it's like a career path, you should be the one vouching out for them and really trying to support those businesses. And especially for us in the creative world, we can give many examples where we have the short arm. And if you're a people pleaser, again, if you've not watched the other 2 episodes, please just hold it there, go watch them, and let's have this discussion, So the people pleaser who now is on the other end doesn't know how to say no. So they have to literally play the part of being the nice one and paying the black tax because somebody somewhere feels that they are entitled to it. Hatutaomoka at the same time. That's the truth. And I say it in my packs. It will happen differently at different intervals for all of us. So we cannot be, because we were dragged by life through the mud, now that you've seen the light at the end of the tunnel, that I'm entitled to your space. Let's talk about even housing space. Somebody who wants to come over to yours, and 1, no notice, 2, no communication of how long it's gonna be. So just because we slept down when we didn't have beds doesn't mean that now we're living in mansions. I owe you, or I owe it to you, that we stuck through it when it was rough. Again, this is my 2 cents from my worldview, from my point of thinking. But if you want to challenge it, let me know in the comments. Let's discuss about it. But for me, I think there should be a very clear distinction between somebody pouring out to you from the abundance of their capacity and capability and taking that in a very honorary manner, vis-a-vis having an entitlement to someone's success and achievements because you saw them through a rough time. That is Wendy Lois, and those are my 2 cents on Through the Detour podcast. Please, if you're listening to this podcast on a podcast platform, we don't have subscribe. We have a plus button. Please press that plus button and join the tribe. Especially if you're new here, we are happy to have you. And if you have been listening and maybe, just maybe you forgot, just swipe up. Let's see if you've subscribed. If you've not subscribed, subscribe to this channel. Let's grow this family. Let's grow this tribe and have these meaningful conversations that make life one load lighter through the conversations that we are having. Thank you so much for returning here, for seeing this amazing content. I will see you again on our next episode. Kwaheri.